Syrian Arab Army units continue its operations against terrorists. And the Syrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs says Erdogan's government supports terrorism. And Syrian citizens in the Netherlands, Sweden, France reject foreign intervention in Syria's internal affairs. Good afternoon, this is News in English. Foreign and Expatriates Ministry stressed that the Turkish government has opened its airports and border points to terrorist members to carry out operations and terrorist acts against Syrian people, and in a flagrant violation to international law and rules of good neighborliness. The ministry affirmed in its letters to both the UN Secretary General and head of the Secretary Council that the Turkish government has allowed the entry of thousands of al-Qaeda terrorists and Takfiris and Wahhabis to commit their crimes of killing of innocent Syrians, blowing up their properties and spreading chaos and sabotage in Syria. The ministry said that the world media has affirmed that during the latest months, the Turkish government in particular received hundreds of tons of weapons coming from Libya and other states through merchants and brokers of terror, and delivered them to members of al-Qaeda and jihadists in Syria in a flagrant violation of the UN Security Council relevant resolutions, apart from the Turkish weapons given to terrorists and seized by competent authorities. A number of parties and national figures yesterday launched a call upon all the opposition forces and parties inside and outside the country for holding a comprehensive national conference for the opposition.
In a statement read during a press conference held in Damascus, the participant parties and figures said that the call came in view of achieving a Syrian dialogue per excellence without any preconditions or preconceptions, and working to halt the bloodshed and preserving Syria's territorial integrity and the unity of its people. The statement mentioned that 24 parties, gatherings and trends have so far signed the call, agreeing on a vision and goals, mainly a deep conviction in the necessity of unifying the opposition's views, or at least coordinating its efforts. The participants also agreed on rejecting all forms of armed conflict and putting allegiance to the homeland above everything else, in addition to realizing civil peace and moving to a modern pluralist democratic system that meets the Syrian people's aspirations and achieves the conditions of citizenship and the halt of violence through the peaceful political solution.
The Syrian Arab Army units continue to chase remaining terrorists and groups in the quarters of Al-Tadamun, Al-Hajar al-Aswad and Al-Taqaddum in Damascus countryside. They killed and wounded dozens of terrorists, detained many of them, and confiscated large amounts of their weapons. The people of these quarters thanked the armed forces for restoring safety and stability to their homeland. They asserted the determination of citizens and their army to defeat the terrorists and the plot of their Wahhabi and Western supporters. The Syrian Arab Army units continued to purge several areas and neighborhoods in Aleppo from the armed terrorist groups and their crimes of murder and sabotage. A unit of our army purged Al-Midan quarter completely from mercenary terrorists. It clashed with a number of them disguised in the uniform of the Syrian Arab Army, while another unit eliminated armed terrorists in Al-Firdaus quarter. The Syrian army killed dozens of mercenary terrorists near the cultural center in Al-Firdaus. In the quarter of Suleiman al-Halabi, our armed forces purged the area and defeated groups of armed terrorism in the neighboring quarters. The guards of the Scientific Research Center in Aleppo confronted an armed terrorist gang that tried to attack the center and inflicted heavy casualties among them. The guards killed scores of those attackers. Also, the guards were supported by a unit of our armed forces. A soldier was killed in the battle. In Homs, the Customs Department confiscated large amounts of weapons and ammunition hidden in a lorry driven by one terrorist and a woman at Homs crossroads towards Hama. The weapons included 7 automatic machine guns, 2 sniper rifles, and a lot of ammunition. Also in Homs, a unit of our armed forces clashed with a terrorist group, killing and wounding many terrorists. The security forces confronted another group of armed terrorists that tried to attack citizens in Homs countryside. The security forces also clashed with another group of terrorists in the village of Jub al-Jarrah, inflicting several casualties among them. Sayyid Hassan Nasrullah, Secretary General of Hezbollah Party, asserted that the evil American film against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a grave and dangerous plot against Islam. He considered the film as intended to create divisions between Muslims and Christians. The American government did nothing to stop this film. This negative attitude exposed America's hypocrisy and double standards. It also showed its disrespect for the holy beliefs of the people. Sayyid Nasrallah called for an international resolution at the highest international level condemning any wrongdoing and defamation against divine religions and prophets. Such a resolution should be binding to all governments in the world. Members of the Syrian Arab community in the Netherlands, Sweden and France gathered in support of their country, rejecting terrorism and all forms of foreign interference.
This is the voice of the Syrians, chanting for their country and for the Syrian Arab Army, rejecting all kinds of foreign interference in Syria's internal affairs. Hundreds of Syrian citizens, along with Dutch supporters, expressed adherence to the national principles and their rejection of the rings of conspiracies carried out by all sheikhs in implementation of their American wills. In Sweden, members of the Syrian Arab community have organized a car drive in which they held banners condemning the terrorist attacks taking place in their country, carried out by Arab tools using terrorist organizations to weaken Syria's resisting stance. In France, the same scene was witnessed, where members of the Syrian Arab community, along with consolidating French citizens, marched holding Syrian flags, a symbol of Syria's unity and sovereignty. Marchers asserted their firm stance against all attempts to undermine Syria and its history.
The Khalifa family continued their savage, repressive measures against the citizens of Bahrain and the Bahraini detainees who have staged a hunger strike for the last 6 days in Bahraini jails.
In Bahrain, the detainees in the jails of Al Khalifa are living in a continuous tragedy. The Bahraini citizens are calling for their legitimate rights. They declared a hunger strike against the humiliating bad treatment and torture and detention without trial. Their relatives aren't allowed to visit them, although the Red Cross called upon the Bahraini government to abide by the international norms and treaties in dealing with the prisoners. The regime of Al Khalifa and other repressive regimes in the Gulf violate human rights collectively. This is the stigma of shame in the records of Al Khalifa and their mercenary agents.
With this we conclude our news. For more information, visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. But for now, stay with us. Vani has the latest in economy after the break.
Good afternoon. The Minister of Industry, Dr. Adnan al-Sukhni, issued a circular addressed to the directors of the industrial general establishments of the ministry. The employees are requested to present their suggestions according to the ministry's vision to deal with the situation that the industrial public sector is undergoing. The minister also issued another circular urging all the industrial enterprises to speed up closing their final accounts of the year 2011. The production and marketing department at the general medical company Tamiko estimated the company's production to be at the value of 836 million Syrian pounds during the first half of this year, with an implementation rate of 85% of its plan. It is to be noted that Tamiko's production constitutes about 17% of the total industrial production, and that the company is suffering by the difficult conditions that the country is going through. Harvesting operations have started for the current cotton season in Al-Hasaka Governorate, indicating a good season. Head of Cotton Department in Al-Hasaka Governorate, Rajab Salama, expected the production to reach more than 220,000 tons ready to be harvested. The United Industrial Company asserted that it had produced goods with the value of 906.3 million Syrian pounds until August, and with an implementation rate of 68% of its plan, while the production of yarn had reached 1,656 tons, while the estimated implementation rate of its plan regarding fabrics is 33%, and the implementation rate for cotton is 51%, while exports are at more than $176 million. The General Establishment for Cement issued a decision which stipulates modifying the Umran institution's share of black cement selling price, which is with normal specifications and is produced by cement companies, except for Al-Rastan Company. The decision further declares that Umran Company's cement selling prices are stable, so that cement would be sold to consumers with no modification on the price. The price is 7,000 Syrian pounds per ton for the normal packaged cement, 6,700 Syrian pounds for the bulk of cement, and 8,200 for the sulfur-resistant one. The director of the Syrian Arab Airlines announced that the company has taken all the appropriate measures to facilitate the transportation of the Syrian pilgrims who are going to Al-Hajj this season, after issuing a formal decision and granting pilgrimage visas, especially that there are preliminary approvals for pilgrimage groups transportation. These groups include about 20,000 Syrian pilgrims. The director added that transportation is available and the new alternative proposals have been made that are economically feasible, especially that the institution is now working with all the scheduled flights according to a feasibility study. Oil traded near its highest level in 4 months before reports were forecast showing a strengthening economy in the U.S., the world's biggest consumer of crude. Futures were little changed in New York after surging as high as $100 a barrel in September. The price of gold rose to reach its highest level in 7 months, while dealers expect that the price of this precious metal would exceed its peak in the current year to reach $1,709 an ounce. And now over to the exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. And with this we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.